Thank you for joining me today, again, in consideration of one of the readings from the Revised Common Lectionary for this coming week. And I've chosen to talk specifically about Jeremiah. Why? Because when I looked at all of these texts, it was this beautiful, beautiful and emotive passion of Jeremiah that leapt out at me as something we need to take into consideration and reflect about in this coming week. Chapter 31 of Jeremiah is just packed with this kind of thing. Please take time to read the whole thing. And by the way, if you're willing to do so, please just push pause right now and read my dynamic translation before continuing to listen. When I was looking at this Hebrew text over the last few days, there are things that just jumped out at me I want to share with you, and I hope they're going to be helpful to you. To begin with, this text begins with just machine gun bullet points of exclamation and command, because it's grammatically in the imperative. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is strident. There's something urgent going on. Now, the first few verbs are about a liturgical response, singing, shouting, praying. In one place, I translated something like, and raise hallelujahs. That's because the word actually in Hebrew there is the verb that we don't very often, to make hallelujah. The second command, which is sometimes translated like shout aloud, is a rare word used mainly of horses or metaphorically of horses neighing. Jeremiah uses it in a passage in chapter 8 that's almost soft pornographic material. It's about idolatry resembling the neighing of a mare looking for a stallion. It's really typical Jeremiah. He goes way out on the end of a limb in use of these images at times. But he uses it here to express something that's just an automated lifting up of the voice. And the fifth imperative is the people are commanded to ask of God, save us, redeem us. Then comes Yahweh's response, and it's just so beautiful. Now, there's one particular word in Hebrew that's used frequently in this passage, and it's a word that's used endlessly in the Old Testament. It's simply bo, the word for go, come. It has, of course, meaning in different nuances, depending on the context. But here, this is about returning, joining with that other beautiful Hebrew word, shub, return. And so this is about returning, about coming, about traveling, about getting back from bitter exile, once again inhabiting a land. And parts of it are just so vivid. There's a place, for instance, where there's beautiful language of poetry going on, where there's a rhyming with bow, with tearfulness. I've translated tears or streaming tears, as they travel, tears and travel. I try to reflect some of that poetic expression in Hebrew. And then the imagery. I actually have a son who has been in and is in the travel guide business. But here, isn't it remarkable that Yahweh says, look, as you return, I will be your travel guide. I will watch over you. I will take you into a beautiful green wadi where clean waters are flowing, there to refresh yourself and bathe. And then after that, I will take you out on the most beautiful road, and you will find it's perfectly smooth. You will not stumble. The whole thing is just filled with this kind of stretching of the Hebrew to its limit, so much so that it's almost impossible to translate into English and get the full effect. And I want you to think, as you read this, about the situation globally that's happening all over the place. Read this from the position, if you like history and are horrified by the Holocaust, what it was like in 1945 when gathered up the remnants of those who were not incarcerated and incinerated and brought together to populate Israel. What is it like for the Syrian refugees? What is it like for those recently loaded onto airplanes from Afghanistan? Think about the poignancy of all those who have been put into exile, going into exile, and longing for their homeland. There are metaphors here that are abundant for our consideration. And I invite you to take some time to reflect on this beautiful, beautiful reading from Jeremiah. Thanks for listening.